Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to field strip or disassemble, clean, lubricate, and reassemble the Taurus G3c 9mm pistol. Let's get right into it. Okay, the first step in cleaning any firearm is to verify that it is completely unloaded. First, remove the magazine, lock the slide to the rear, and verify that there is no round in the chamber. And always double check that because we will be pressing the trigger. Alright, to field strip the Taurus G3c, simply hold the gun like this and move the slide back just slightly to take the pressure off of the recoil spring so that you can move the takedown levers down. There's one on each side. Grab them both at the same time, pull down, release the slide, release the levers, point the gun in a safe direction, press the trigger, release, and now the slide will come right off the front of the frame. Turn the slide over, press on the recoil spring and guide rod, pull that out. That's one assembly. Now you can just press up on the barrel and pull that out. And that is all the disassembly you need to do for the Taurus G3, and now we can go ahead and clean each piece. You really don't need very much to clean your gun. This is the bare minimum. What I use to clean it is a CLP, which is original gun oil. I'll leave a link down in the description. This is a cleaner, lubricant, and protectant. You can use this or any other brand out there. There's break-free CLP, which is kind of a spray. You could also use some kind of a solvent, Hoppy's number 9 or Hops number 9. I'm not sure how you say that. This is a more aggressive kind of a chemical cleaner. It has a pretty good smell to it, where original gun oil really doesn't have an odor and it doesn't stink up the house. I would be careful with this if you're going to use it on a plastic gun. If your gun's really dirty, especially the barrel or the bore, you might want to use a solvent like this, a gun bore cleaner, to get that really clean. So I'm going to use original gun oil for the cleaning part. I'm going to use a gun brush. I like this brush. This is actually a dog toothbrush. It's got a big area and a smaller area here, which comes in very handy for cleaning a gun. I'm going to use just some cut up t-shirts. These are just cotton t-shirt cut up into pieces. I use cotton swabs to get into the little nooks and crannies. I love these. These are dual tip. You got a pointy end and a regular end. These are very, very handy. And the other thing I like to use is a boresnake. This is a Hops boresnake. This is the Viper version. The original version works well too. The Viper version's a little bit longer. All this is a long fabric. They come in different sizes for the caliber that you're doing. So this would be for a 9mm. It's got copper brushes built in, which is important for loosening any of the dirt inside the barrel. And then all this material goes through and wipes all the cleaner and dirt out of the barrel. So we're going to use that. Another option you could do is to just get a kit. I'll leave a link down in the description. Kits typically come with some kind of a cleaner. This is a CLP in here. It comes with a rod and some brushes, which you're going to push through the barrel, and also it comes with some loops that hold the patches on there so you can push the patches through the barrel to clean the inside of the barrel. So that's another option. Alright, if this is your first time cleaning your firearm, welcome to the channel, and we're just going to go through this nice and easy and show you every step so that you're comfortable cleaning your firearm. Basically all we want to do is clean each of these 4 pieces, put a little lube on them, and put them back together. So we're going to start with the barrel. So this is the barrel. Inside the barrel is called the bore, and as you can see on this one is caked pretty good with carbon. If you look through this barrel, you can see that it's kind of dirty. You can see the grooves in there. Those grooves cause the bullet to spin, which makes it more stable traveling through the air. So you can see how dirty the inside of this barrel is. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some gun oil, and I'm just going to drip some inside. And if you're using solvent, you can do the same thing with solvent. I'm just going to put a couple of drops in here. I'm going to put a couple of drops in this side. Just going to get one of my cotton swabs. I'm just going to lightly kind of smear the oil around to kind of coat the inside. And we're just going to leave that, work on that for a little bit. So later on when we come back to this, all the dirt will be loosened and ready to come out more easily. Alright, so now let's get to the slide. We're basically going to do the same thing on the slide. We're going to just get some lube, a couple of drops of lube in here, or solvent, depending on what you're using. Just a couple drops. And then we're going to use our brush, gun brush, dog brush, whatever, and just kind of smear that around. The idea here is just to coat the inside with the cleaner, whatever you're using as a cleaner, get it spread around a little bit so it can start loosening any dirt. A couple of places we want to be careful of are right here. This is the striker, moves back and forth. That's what fires the round. You don't want to get any oil down into this area. There's a slot where the striker slides back and forth. You don't want to get oil in there. You don't want to get oil in this hole here. That's where the firing pin comes out to fire the round. Certainly clean the breech face. Get a little oil on it with the brush. You could also put a drop or two on the brush. Make it a little bit easier to control where it goes. And then just kind of brush the oil onto the dirty spots. The other important place to clean is there's a slot that runs all the way up either side of the slide. That's where it slides back and forth on the frame rail. So it slides back and forth on those frame rails. So we want to get those slides, they're called slide cuts. There are cuts in the slide. We want to get those nice and clean. So just get some, put the brush in there, get the oil in there a little bit. Gonna let that sit for a few minutes. Alright, I'm just going to clean off the brush a little here on this paper towel. Get the crud off the brush a little bit. Alright, now we're just going to take a cotton cloth, some of your cotton cloth or cut out t-shirts, and just wipe away the areas where you got the oil as best you can with your fingers. You're not going to be able to get it all with your fingers, but just wipe that, and then after you wiped it, you can take it, put it on there, use the bristles of the brush to kind of push the cloth down into the tighter spaces. And just kind of use that. And that's going to get down pretty good into all these slots here. Don't push too hard, just let those bristles do the work. I'm not wearing gloves right now. Original gun oil is non-toxic, but some of the carbon buildup you might not want to get on your fingers. It's just easier for me to do this and work the camera at the same time, so I would recommend using rubber gloves. If you're going to use something like Hoppy's solvent, you definitely want to use gloves. That is a much more toxic chemical. All right. So I'm just using the brush to clean out all the slots. Anywhere that you can't get with the brush and the rag, that's what the cotton swabs are for. So just get the bigger side of the cotton swab for the general areas. And what I love about these cotton swabs is this pointy tip gets right in these slide cuts really well. So we want to clean these out real good. Don't push too hard or you'll break your cotton swab. On the other side, and get in there with the tip. And just basically keep wiping the gun till it comes up pretty clean. You don't have to get every single little tiny bit of dirt. You just want to get it as clean as you're comfortable with. As long as the main areas are clean, you're good to go. Now this right here, this little hook is called the extractor. That's what grabs onto the back of the brass and pulls it out of the chamber after it's fired. You want to make sure there's no crud built up underneath this hook. Mine's nice and clean, so that's very important. Clean the breech face off. Get everything pretty clean. It's hard to remove all the carbon. You can probably spend an hour doing this if you want to get it completely clean, but I'm just gonna clean it up fairly well. If you want, you can always put more cleaner on there and clean it up that way. Alright, that's looking pretty good. If the outside of your slide is especially dirty, you can do the same thing. I would get the brush, put a drop on there maybe. Put a drop and then just kind of brush that down. Get a nice clean cloth and just wipe that down. Alright, this looks pretty good. Alright, now let's move on to the frame. Alright, so the frame, we want to kind of do the same thing. We don't want to go all over the outside of the frame unless it's really dirty. You could actually use a like a damp rag if this is really dirty. It's just plastic. It's got a pretty aggressive, like sandpapery type grip here, which could get dirty. So you'd want to use a nice clean brush to clean that off if you have dirt embedded in there. But a nice toothbrush or brush will just do fine there. The most important places to clean on the frame, these rails here, it's where the slide moves back and forth. These rails in the front, these rails in the back, on both sides. You want to make sure you're not getting any kind of buildup in this area. And right here, this is where the rounds kind of start getting pushed up into the chamber. So you want that clean. And just basically clean all around. Just a drop on each of these rails. And then kind of a drop here and here and here. And then I'm just going to use the brush to kind of brush that in and help clean this off. Again, you don't have to get as detailed as I'm getting here. You can just give this a good wiping. Actually, you could use a dry brush if it's not too dirty. And just brush all the loose dirt off of there. And you'll probably be good to go. I like to get it a little bit cleaner than that. So I really don't have to go too deep with this. Just basically get the metal parts. Alright. And then after you get them coated, just get your cloth rag. Wipe this as best you can with your fingers. Wipe down here. Alright, and then you can use a cloth like this. Use the bristles of your brush to kind of push that down underneath the slide rails. Gets in there pretty good, and along the top here. It's just one way of doing it. You can use it. You can use the cotton swabs. Works well. I like to use the bristles. They really push the cloth down in there pretty good. Okay, we're almost there. Gonna just finish it off with the cotton swab. Just be gentle in this area. You don't want to push anything around too much or bend anything. But you're doing pretty good. So this isn't 100% clean. You can keep going if you want. Like I said, you could be here all day trying to get it 100% clean, but you need to just get all the loose stuff out of there, anything that might be building up. All right, that's pretty good. Got it pretty clean. Pretty clean enough for me. All right, next is the recoil spring and guide rod. This really doesn't get that dirty, so all you want to do here, unless it is real dirty, is just kind of brush it off. Make sure any buildup just comes off of it with the brush. The brush will get right down in between the spring coils like that. Get that nice and clean. If it's real dirty, you can put a drop of oil on here to clean it up, but this one really doesn't look like it really needs much. All right, there we go. All right, so now we come to the barrel, and the barrel again has had oil inside of it for about 5 or 10 minutes now, so we're good to go. We're going to get the bore snake. This is kind of a shortcut using the bore snake, but it does a real nice job. If your barrel is super dirty, you might want to get just a regular rod and patches and a brush, like one of these kind of brushes that comes with the kit, and use that on it. I'll do another video showing that, but today we're just going to use the bore snake. It does have the built-in brushes on it. This is real simple. So you just want to feed the end in from this side. This is the breech side and this is the muzzle side. All right, and just pull that through. It's a little tight. The brushes are nice and tight, which is good. It's going to help pull that dirt out. And then all this material acts like a whole bunch of patches at once going through there. So I just passed that through once, and if you remember what it looked like, it's already looking nice and shiny. I like to put it through a couple of times just to be sure, but one pass after letting that oil sit in there is probably all you really need. All right, so let's take another look in here. That is pretty clean. Inside is pretty clean. We still have to work on this outside area here. For this outside area, just put a drop of oil on the cotton swab or solvent, whatever you're going to use, and use that. If you need to get the brush in there, all right, wipe that down. And it doesn't have to be 100%, but you want this ramp to be pretty clean. This is where the rounds slide up into the chamber. So you want this to be clean and smooth as possible. All right, so there we go. This barrel is pretty clean. Just going to put a drop on the outside. Smear that around with a finger. And then wipe that down. All right, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so next we want to clean the magazine. If the magazine is not dirty and you haven't dropped it in the gravel or the dirt, you can just wipe this down for the most part. Wipe down the follower. That's this part here that pushes the rounds up. It's called the follower. Just make sure everything's clean. Take a quick look at it to make sure these feed lips are not bent, that they look like this, that they're not bent out of shape. All right, and that's all you really need to do for this magazine. And if you do need to disassemble this and take it apart because you've dropped it in the gravel or the dirt, I'll make a video and I'll link it up here in the corner so you can go to that video and see exactly how to take this apart. Alright, so now we want to lubricate the Taurus G3c. So the user manual for the Taurus G3c only tells you to put lube in 2 places. And that is the frame rails, which there's 4 frame rails, and the barrel lockup points. And the lockup points are where the barrel comes into contact with other pieces of the gun. I'm going to show you some of those places. So we're just going to put oil on these rails, and it's just going to be a tiny bit of oil. Just going to put maybe like a half a drop on each of these rails. And you don't want to put a big drop, so you could even kind of dab off any excess so it's not dripping. Just a little bit of oil on those rails. That's where the slide moves back and forth. And the barrel lockup points. So the top of the barrel slides back and forth inside the slide. When the slide's cycling, it slides back and forth like that. And these are the lockup points here. So I'm just going to put one drop on top here. And I'm going to put a drop, oh, that's a little bit too much. Just 2 drops on the barrel lugs and kind of not wipe them off completely, but just kind of get the excess so you can still see oil in these areas. And that's really all you need to do. It wouldn't hurt to put just a little bit on the front here, because that does slide in and out of the slide. And that's about all you need as far as lubrication for this firearm. So now it's time to reassemble. And so reassemble is just the opposite. Take the slide upside down. Take the barrel in this orientation. Drop it in. And just kind of drop it in and lock it back like that. Then take your recoil spring and guide rod assembly in this orientation with the smaller spring toward the back of the gun. This fits in here. Just kind of squeeze that back so that it sits right in that notch there, all the way in the front of that lockup point. Okay? Alright, to put the slide back on, simply line up the slide on the frame with the frame rails here and bring the slide up like this. Be careful when you get to the ejector here that you don't scratch the back of your gun, because there's a little bit of play right here. So just bring it up nice and straight. When you get here, sometimes it gets a little hung up. So if you can't go straight back, don't worry, just back up a little. Back it up a little. Try it again, and it'll go on like that. You can push it all the way back and lock the slide stop to lock it back, and then just take a quick look. Make sure everything looks good, that this gap is not too big here. Everything looks like it's on correctly. And then push the slide back again to release the slide stop. And then the slide will come forward. Make sure it looks good, and then test your slide. Alright, and now your gun is all back together. If necessary, if any oil has gotten free, just wipe it off with your rag. And now you want to do a quick function and safety check. I'll put a link up here to a video on that, on how to do that. It's not really called out in the manual to do that, but I think it's prudent to do a quick run through of the safety mechanisms just to make sure everything's working properly. All right, if you found this video helpful, please hit like below. Please check out the description for all the products that we used here to clean this gun today. And thank you for watching.